Talk about a crusher. Yes! Oh!
Are you kidding me?
And gone!
Welcome back to the Schoolyard Sports podcast. I'm this podcast lane. Frank, we're now episode 76. That's for 76 episodes through, and I got an action-packed episode planned for you. NBA playoffs are underway. NFL draft is 1 week away. MLB season is rolling, and so much more. Stay tuned for this action-packed episode number 76. Let's hop into it. Now, let's start with episode 76, how we always do, with the headlines in the NBA. Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics, all I have to say right there, that seemed like Game 7 NBA Finals, but in reality, it was Game 1, first round. What an environment that was in Boston. What again, that was Kyrie Irving, and not such a great welcome back to Boston, you could say. What a game that was. Jason Tatum, buzzer beater. Seeing that live, that was just crazy. I thought Mark Smart was going to take the shot, kicks to Jason Tatum, makes a crazy move on Kyrie Irving, and gets the bucket to go in, and the Celtics win the game. Good defense in that game, great offense also. It was just a great, well-played game. I think it's going to go back and forth. I think it definitely will go to 7. I think Nets probably do win both in Brooklyn, and then maybe the Celtics win another night in Boston. But it's just going to be an amazing series, everybody. This might be the best series of the playoffs the past couple of years. This is going to be an amazing series, in my opinion. But Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics off to a great start. Marcus Smart winning Defensive Player of the Year also this week. What a great win that was for Marcus Smart, being one of the only guards ever to win Defensive Player of the Year. He said a couple years ago, can a guard ever win Defensive Player of the Year that's not named Gary Payton? Well, Marcus Smart won Defensive Player of the Year, and he's not named Gary Payton. So what a performance this was by Marcus Smart this season. What performance that was by the Boston Celtics in Game 1 against the Brooklyn Nets. It was snubbed of an award, Jordan Poole, but Jordan Poole was snubbed of Most Improved Player. He's not even a finalist. That's wild to see right there. Jordan Poole should be maybe even the favorite Most Improved. He's not even a finalist. That's wild to me right there. But Jordan Poole went off in the first 2 games of this series. My Michigan guy, Jordan Poole, I got a segment coming up later about he and Duncan Robinson. What a performance that was in those first 2 games. 30 points the first game, 29 points in the second game. Wow, starting over Steph Curry. It's going to suck to see that he's not going to be able to start in the starting lineup next series because they're obviously going to have to start Andrew Wiggins. They're going to have to start Kevon Looney because size. They're going to start Draymond Green. They're going to start Klay Thompson. They're going to start Steph Curry. They're not going to go crazy, put Jordan Poole over Steph Curry or Klay Thompson, which is the right thing to do, but this team's rolling. I might even say this team might win the championship over the Phoenix Suns. This is just wild to see right here. They might win the Western Conference over the Suns. I know I picked the Suns, and I'm going to ride out that prediction, but it's just wild to see right here. Jordan Poole going off so far in the NBA playoffs. The Minnesota Timberwolves shocked the world when they beat the Los Angeles Clippers to win the NBA play-in. My bad. Minnesota Timberwolves pretty much celebrated like they won NBA championship right there. Patrick Beverley went insane. He got fined for going crazy. It seemed like they were going crazy. It seemed like they won NBA championship. No, they won the play-in to be the 7th seed. And then they won Game 1 against the Memphis Grizzlies, which I don't think Memphis Grizzlies should be too worried right now, but, they are pretty equal. Anthony Edwards is a great player. John Morant, coming off injury. Karl-Anthony Towns is a great center in this NBA. Outmatches Steven Adams and Jared Jackson, probably. So this is just a great team, in my opinion. This is going to be a great series. Minnesota Timberwolves obviously overreacted to their win, but, that's what's going to happen. Obviously, a great win against the Memphis Grizzlies in Game 1. But Minnesota Timberwolves rolling right now to start off the NBA playoffs. Let's go over to the NFL where we have a bunch of news. Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo are still not on teams. We're going to break that down later. We're going to break down the NFL draft later. But the big news of this week in the NFL is wide receivers want contracts. A.J. Brown wants a major contract. Is he a top 5 wide receiver? Is Deebo Samuel a top 5 wide receiver? Those are 2 wide receivers wanting big contracts. We got something coming up next about top 5 wide receivers in the NFL. I'm going to break down who the top 5 highest paid wide receivers in the NFL should be, who the top 5 wide receivers in the NFL are. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but just wild to see right here. All these wide receivers. I don't think Deebo Samuel should be one of the top 3 highest paid wide receivers. I don't think A.J. Brown in his 4th season in the NFL deserves to be a top 3 paid wide receiver. I really don't. So a lot of stuff going on in the NFL right now with the wide receivers, seeing Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill getting huge contracts this offseason, but a lot going on in the NFL with the wide receivers. Let's move to the MLB where we have a bunch of news. Shohei Ohtani started out the season horrendous for the Los Angeles Angels. Now he's doing great. Okay, pretty much gave his bat CPR, it looked like the other night. He had a leadoff home run against the Texas Rangers. Now he's rolling. He's 3 home runs in the season. He could win an MVP again this year. I'm sticking with my pick, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I'm riding out with that pick, but his crosstown rival, Los Angeles Dodgers, Freddie Freeman, in his first at-bat, His first at-bat against the Atlanta Braves, his former team of 10-plus years, he hits a home run against them in his first at-bat back. Well, I mean, what a moment that is right there. Atlanta Braves are a good team. I want to see them play this weekend against the Padres. They are a very good team. Matt Olson's a great player, and that's a perfect replacement for Freddie Freeman. Two of the top first basemen in baseball right now, Matt Olson and Freddie Freeman. Just what a replacement that is for him. But Freddie Freeman goes yard in his first at-bat against his former team, the Atlanta Braves. That's bad for the headlines this week. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Now, my favorite thing from this week, the best thing I saw this week, was my Michigan guys, my Michigan guards, Duncan Robinson, Miami Heat, and Jordan Poole. I talked a lot about in the headlines of the Golden State Warriors going off in the NBA playoffs. Duncan Robinson, 27 points. So many threes, maybe the best three-point shooter in the NBA. That's not that crazy of a statement right there. He had a rough regular season after getting a huge contract last offseason, but Duncan Robinson didn't let that go to his head. He showed up when it matters most. Playoff time. He fully outshined Trae Young in that game, was the best player in that game. What a game that was for Duncan Robinson. What a series start this has been for Duncan Robinson. And for Jordan Poole, we already talked about him a bunch in the headlines, but this is a great team. Golden State Warriors, Jordan Poole, a lot of people criticized him when he came out of Michigan as a sophomore. They said, he should have stayed another year. No, Jordan Poole didn't stay another year, went to the NBA, and people thought, he's going to be a bust because he had a terrible rookie year. Then he had a pretty good second year. Now he's going off in his third year in the NBA. Jordan Poole, an amazing player, in my opinion. Could be maybe sixth man of the year next year when everybody's healthy, because he'll probably come off the bench next season. I think he should be a sixth man of the year next year. Should have been the most improved player this year, though. But just so much going on. All these John Beilein guys. John Beilein found these guys. Duncan Robinson, the only player ever to make the jump from D3 to D1 directly. Just great play. Great story for Duncan Robinson. Great story for Jordan Poole. That's my favorite of the week. Seeing my Michigan guys, Jordan Poole and Duncan Robinson, going off in the NBA playoffs. It's here, everybody. I promised it. The top 5 NFL wide receivers, in my opinion. We did it last season. I think I had DeAndre Hopkins at number 1, but no. We had Julio Jones on that list last season. No, we're not going to have Julio Jones on this season. Julio Jones is not a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL anymore. So this is our top 5 wide receivers in the NFL right now. Not going off of last season. If we're going off last season, Deebo Samuel's on this list, and Cooper Kupp's number 1. Cooper Kupp is on this list still, but he's not number 1. Let's hop into it. Top 5 wide receivers in the NFL, and who I think the top paid wide receivers in the NFL should be. Number 5, Stephon Diggs, everybody. Stephon Diggs got a huge contract this offseason, well-deserved for the Buffalo Bills. Wants to retire a Buffalo Bill. That connection with Josh Allen is amazing. Has proved his whole career. From being a 6th-round pick, Stephon Diggs, now being an all-pro for the Buffalo Bills. Stephon Diggs, great player, 5th best wide receiver in the NFL. Number 4, it's Tyreek Hill, another 6th-round pick for the Miami Dolphins. That's going to get weird to say right there. Tyreek Hill for the Miami Dolphins. Not Kansas City Chief anymore. Maybe his play will go downhill. Maybe he'll even rise up more. We're just going to have to wait and see. But Tyreek Hill, 4th best wide receiver in the NFL, in my opinion. Number 3, DeAndre Hopkins, everybody. You can say, how? All these guys have better seasons than DeAndre Hopkins last season. The Cardinals were 7-0 to start the season. Then they went to 9-2. Then DeAndre Hopkins gets hurt for the rest of the season, and the Cardinals don't make it past the wild card, and Kyler Murray wants a new contract, starts up this whole debate. So, point of the story is that when DeAndre Hopkins plays for the Arizona Cardinals, they are a much better team. Kyler Murray's a much better player. Elevates Kyler Murray's play. That's why I have DeAndre Hopkins as the 3rd best wide receiver in the NFL. One of the best. I mean, he can moss you. He can do anything. One of the best jump ball receivers of all time, you could say. DeAndre Hopkins, an amazing receiver. 3rd best receiver in the NFL. Right now, DeAndre Hopkins. Number 2, Cooper Kupp, everybody. Now, not the guy who's going to go up and grab the ball from you. He's not going to be the best jump ball wide receiver in the NFL. No, that's probably DeAndre Hopkins right now. But he is probably one of the best route runners in the NFL, if not the best. I mean, just speed, efficiency. Cooper Kupp is the most efficient, one of the most efficient players in the NFL, you could say. Cooper Kupp, 2nd best wide receiver in the NFL, in my opinion. Should be paid 2nd most wide receiver in the NFL. And now number 1, the highest paid receiver in the NFL is Devontae Adams. So I have Devontae Adams at number 1. Devontae Adams is a great player. He's going to be Las Vegas Raiders, so 2 wide receivers on this list on new teams now. Tyreek Hill on a new team, and Devontae Adams on a new team. He's going to have that connection with Derek Carr like he had that connection with Aaron Rodgers. He's a great player, Devontae Adams. He's the best wide receiver in the NFL. And that's my list. You can debate it. Those are my reasons. Those are my top 5 wide receivers in the NFL. I don't have Deebo Samuel on this list. I don't have A.J. Brown on this list. And I don't have any other wide receiver who wants more money in their contract. I really don't. I think these are the top 5 wide receivers in the NFL, and I stand by that statement. That's top 5 this week. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Now, didn't know, but this week's Didn't Know is a good one. Did you know the fastest player to ever reach 100 career home runs is Ryan Howard, who is probably the biggest what if in baseball history, one of the biggest what ifs in baseball history. I mean, if Ryan Howard stayed healthy his whole career, didn't tear his Achilles, you're looking at maybe a potential Hall of Famer, maybe the next Barry Bonds. That's a bit of a wild statement right there. But Ryan Howard is one of the best power hitters of that time. He is, for sure. But the second fastest player to reach 100 home runs, and a little bit of an unexpected thing right here, is my guy, the polar bear, Pete Alonso. Second fastest player to ever reach 100 home runs is my guy of my New York Mets, Pete Alonso. Didn't know that? Leave that in the comment section. That's about for Didn't Know this week. So let's hop into my NFL Draft Big Board. But NFL Draft is 1 week away. We have our mock draft special next week, but we're not going to do a mock draft this week. We did one last week of the top 8 players. Now we're going to do a big board of my top 10 players in this draft class, regardless of position, regardless of anything like that. My top 10 players in this NFL draft class. Let's hop into it. The number 1 player in this draft class, in my opinion, is Aiden Hutchinson of the Michigan Wolverines. My Michigan guy, Aiden Hutchinson, is the best player in this draft class. He's one of the best edge rushers, maybe in the past 10 years to come out. He's amazing, Aiden Hutchinson. He's going to be no doubt the number 1 pick and the best player in this draft class, in my opinion. My Michigan guy, Aiden Hutchinson, goes number 1 and is the best player in this draft class, in my opinion. The number 2, who's the second best player in this draft class? I got Ike Mekwonu as the second best player in this draft class. I don't think he goes number 2 to the Lions, but I do definitely think he is an amazing player. I mean, you could maybe see the Lions go crazy and take another offensive lineman. They took Penei Sewell last year, so I don't think they need to take another tackle. But Ike Mekwonu is a great player, in my opinion. Better than Evan Neal, even though I really like Evan Neal. Better than Charles Cross, who I also really like, who are both in this list, Charles Cross and Evan Neal. But I got Ike Mekwonu, again, the slight edge of them. Ike Mekwonu, second best player in this draft class. Number 3, Evan Neal. Evan Neal, I think, will probably end up going to the Jets. We're going to talk about in the mock draft special next week. But Evan Neal is an amazing player to play. Had some struggles getting ready for snaps, stuff like that last season. But he played left tackle and right tackle in his time at Alabama. So he's flexible in the NFL. Interesting thing to look out for there. Evan Neal, great player in my opinion, will be great in the NFL. So Evan Neal, third best player in this draft class. Number 4, Trayvon Walker out of Georgia, everybody. If my mock draft stands is how it is right now, I have Trayvon Walker going number 2 to the Lions. Trayvon Walker is a great player in my opinion, really shocked draft boards. Had a great season at Georgia, no debate about that. But I mean, since the Combine, since his pro day, has been shooting up draft boards. Number 2 pick in the NFL draft will be Trayvon Walker, and he's number 4 on my list of the 10 best players in this NFL draft class. Number 4 on Schoolyard Sports Big Board, Trayvon Walker. Number 5, Kayvon Thibodeaux. Kayvon Thibodeaux can be the most talented player in this draft class. He can. But is he? That's a tough thing right there. Because Dan Campbell's not going to take him. He has probably one of the worst. I mean, he doesn't have the best attitude, Kayvon Thibodeaux. It's this, it's that. He's very injury prone. And Aiden Hutchinson can get injured, but he'll play through injuries. Kayvon Thibodeaux didn't play in that Ohio State game, arguably maybe the biggest game of his career. Didn't play in it. You could say, oh, he could have played in it. Oh, he couldn't have. I don't care. Kayvon Thibodeaux is much more injury prone than Trayvon Walker, than Aiden Hutchinson. So I think Kayvon Thibodeaux is the 3rd best edge rusher in this class, and I think he is the 5th best player in this draft class. He could have the talent to be number 1, but I don't think he is. Kayvon Thibodeaux, 5th best player in this draft class. Number 6, Kyle Hamilton. Some people have Kyle Hamilton at number 1. Some people have Kyle Hamilton at number 2. I'm putting Kyle Hamilton at number 6. Kyle Hamilton got hurt late in the season at Notre Dame, had a terrible pro day, ran a 4.9 40-yard dash, but that's unofficial. I mean, Kyle Hamilton's still going to be a great safety in the NFL. He'd be a great spot for the Eagles, maybe even the Texans at number 3. But I got Kyle Hamilton, number 6. 6th best player in this draft class, my opinion, is safety at Notre Dame, Kyle Hamilton. Now, number 7, the 3rd best offensive lineman in this draft class, Charles Cross, who I am hoping my New York Giants take either number 5 or number 7, unless they can Mekwonu or Evan Neal available at that spot. Charles Cross had a great season at Mississippi State. He's a great run blocker. Will be better than Andrew Thomas. Will be better than Will Hernandez. So I think this would be a perfect pick for the Giants. This isn't a mock draft, but maybe next week he'll be going number 5 or number 7 in my mock draft to my New York Giants. 7th best player in this draft class is Charles Cross at Mississippi State. Number 8, Jermaine Johnson, everybody. I could say, who's Jermaine Johnson? Jermaine Johnson has been shooting up draft boards. Some people have him at number 8. Some people have him at number 3 going to the Texans. That'll be wild to see right there. Texans do need an edge rusher. Jermaine Johnson just might be that pick. Jermaine Johnson had a great season at Florida State, but it's really been the postseason that he's done well. He did great in the Combine, did great as pro day, and now he's shooting up draft boards. 7th, 8th best player in this draft class, in my opinion, is Jermaine Johnson. Now, number 9, this is what I think the best cornerback of this draft class is. It's not Sauce Gardner. It's not Kyrie Elam. It's not Derek Jr. It's Trent McDuffie, everybody, out of Washington. Trent McDuffie has had a great college career. I mean, this would be a perfect, ideal spot for the Eagles, for the Saints. A team like that would be lucky to have him. Seahawks, Trent McDuffie, great player in my opinion. 9th best player in this draft class is Trent McDuffie. Now, number 10, I want to squeeze wide receiver in there. I'm back and forth. Is it Drake London? Is it Garrett Wilson? Who's the best wide receiver in this draft class? It's pretty much 10A, 10B for me right here. I'm just going to give it to Drake London because of the versatility. Drake London is like a DeAndre Hopkins type player. He's not a Tyreek Hill type player where he's going to go up and route you up, everything like that. But he will go up and snag a ball for you. Drake London is that type of player. Had a great season at USC. Had a great career at USC. Played basketball on the USC basketball team's freshman year. That's what I see right there. Drake London, very athletic. I mean, can go up and grab a ball. Maybe could be the next DeAndre Hopkins. Drake London, great player. 10th best player in this draft class over Garrett Wilson. I'll say right there, Drake London is the best wide receiver in this draft class. And that's my Schoolyard Sports big board, last big board of the NFL draft cycle. Until next year. Next week, we got our mock draft special. Still more comments, Schoolyard Sports Lane Freight, 76. Now, around the base, everybody, the weekly baseball MLB news, so let's hop into it. So much news went on MLB this week, but let's start out with Corey Seager being walked with the bases loaded. I blame all this on analytics, okay? I blame this on analytics, because did it really work? Joe Madden might think Corey Seager's the next Barry Bonds, but I think there's a higher chance of Corey Seager grounding out than hitting a single, hitting a triple, hitting a double, hitting a home run, anything like that. I really think there's a higher chance of Corey Seager grounding out, because he's not that type of power hitter, and he's probably going to ground out. It's forced play. Bases loaded. So I don't really like that decision by Joe Madden, but I do blame it on analytics. What do you think about Corey Seager being walked with the bases loaded? Just an interesting kind of thing right there. Corey Seager being walked with the bases loaded. Well, now I want to talk about another shortstop in MLB, Francisco Lindor. But Francisco Lindor had a horrendous season last year. He had 5 home runs through the month of July, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure he has 5 home runs, or at least 4 home runs already through the season. Francisco Lindor is showing why he's a $341 million player. Francisco Lindor is showing why he's an amazing player, why he was great with the Indians, and now why he's great with New York Mets. So Francisco Lindor had a rough season last year, first season in New York. Now he's playing great so far for the New York Mets, and New York Mets are rolling. Won a doubleheader against the Giants yesterday. New York Mets rolling right now. And MLB, probably going to win the NL East. I mean, I was traumatized by the NL East last season. NL East, I mean, Mets had a lead for 80, I think it was through August, and then the Mets blew that lead. Most games ever in first place not make the playoffs, New York Mets. Wild stuff right there. But this season, I think the New York Mets win the NL East and do make the playoffs. But a lot of stuff going on in the NL right now. Dodgers obviously tearing up. Freddie Freeman in his first at-bat against his old team, Atlanta Braves in LA, hits a dinger. What a play that was by Freddie Freeman. Wasn't that bad. That's just wild stuff right there. I mean, first at-bat against their former team, hitting a home run. Gets your team of like 10 plus years. That's wild stuff right there from Freddie Freeman. Will Freddie Freeman win MVP season? Will Freddie Freeman win Silver Slugger season? Will Freddie Freeman be an all-star this season? Leave your answer in the comment section. Now the last thing I want to talk about right here now around the bases. Hunter Green, everybody. Hunter Green of the Cincinnati Reds is an amazing player to play. I mean, this is wild stuff right here. Number 2 pick of the, I think it was 2019 MLB draft, and Hunter Green, I mean, at Notre Dame, throws 100 miles per hour in pretty much every single at bat, every single pitch, it seems like. Hunter Green's fastball might just be the fastest in baseball. Broke the record for most pitches over 100 miles per hour in his second career game. He got the loss, only gave up 2 runs, but because the Reds' offense is very lackluster, they couldn't get scoring over the Dodgers pitching. But Hunter Green is an amazing player in my opinion. Most pitches over 100 miles per hour in a game in his second career start. Record previously held by Jake DeGrom, then Nathan Eovaldi. But Hunter Green's going to be a star on making every play. Just tough to see right there. Reds trading all their players in the offseason. But we got a segment coming up next about baseball's big problem. Stay tuned for that, everybody. That's about for Around the Bases this week. So, the big news this offseason in MLB was the MLB lockout, looking for a new CBA, and owner said, oh, the big thing we want is a new pitch clock system. A pitch clock system? It says it's going to shave 20 minutes off the game. It's doing AAA right now. That's not very exciting to me. 20 minutes off a game, and then I don't want the game to go 7 innings or anything like that, because then it ruins stats for players, and if you take off games, it ruins stats for players also. But I want to talk about baseball's bigger problem right here, which should have happened this MLB offseason with the lockout, with the new CBA, but it didn't. So let me break it down to you. 13 out of the 30 MLB teams have payroll around $30 million. Now, that isn't a lot, everybody. That is not a lot. That is pretty much half the MLB has a payroll under $30 million. 8 MLB players have an annual salary over $30 million, with Trevor Bauer being number 1, $40 million, and then Max Scherzer being up there at number 2 with, I think, $37 million. That's wild stuff right there. Only 17 MLB teams have payroll over $30 million. I mean, that's a little bit more than half the MLB right there. So low market teams in the MLB really can't win. And only 2 of those 13 MLB teams are contenders. Only 2 of them. So that shows that low market teams in the MLB cannot be contenders. The only 2 teams there are the Mariners and the Tampa Bay Rays. And the Rays live off analytics. They live off analytics, and they live off, weird starting pitcher Tyler, starting pitching. A couple years ago, they were going with relief pitching, starting pitching, but Tyler Glass now a great player. Randy Arozarena, great find for them. And the other contender is Seattle Mariners, who might not even be a contender. They have J.P. Crawford. They have Jared Kelenic. They have Julio Rodriguez. So they could be a World Series contender in the next couple years, and they probably will be a playoff contender for this season. But let's have those 2 of the 13 teams. If you're a low market team, that'll be. It is almost impossible to win. Now, the Cincinnati Reds, who I just talked about with Hunter Green around bases, they should be World Series contenders right now, or World Series favorites in the NL right now, but they aren't. Let me break it down to you. Last season, they had an amazing roster. They had an amazing roster. Even the season before, they had Trevor Bauer. If they could have more money, they would have brought Trevor Bauer back, but they couldn't. Then they had Joey Votto last season, who could have won MVP. Didn't. They had Rookie of the Year Jonathan India at second base, and they couldn't bring him back. They had Silver Slugger, 30-plus home run king, pretty much, Eugenio Suarez at third base. They'd trade him. Jesse Winker at left field, they'd trade him. So Cincinnati Reds have a big problem. It's just, they had to trade all these guys because they wanted new contracts. Jesse Winker's almost up for free agency. Eugenio Suarez is almost up for free agency. Joey Votto's pretty much the only guy who's last on that Cincinnati Reds team. So Cincinnati Reds had a World Series contending roster last season, but couldn't do it. But if they came back this season, they probably could have had a chance at the World Series. But no, they had to blow up the team because all these guys wanted new contracts, and they're a low-market team with a payroll around $30 million. What are they going to do? They can't pay them that money. So kind of just interesting stuff right there. Cincinnati Reds can't be contenders with the type of roster they have right now. Luis Castillo in there. They trade Sonny Gray this offseason. So they had all the pieces last season. They could have brought them in this season, but they don't have the salary cap. They don't have the payroll to do that. So salary cap benefited them. Another team like that is the Oakland Athletics. Oakland Athletics had a great roster. Could have had a great roster season. Had a great roster last season. The roster this season could have been Tyler Soderstrom, top prospect catcher. Matt Olson, who's tearing it up for the Atlanta Braves right now at first base. They could have had Tony Kemp at second base. Matt Chapman, all-star shortstop. And it's just wild to me right here. Sean Manaea at starting pitcher. They'd trade him also. So much going on with these 2 teams. Oakland Athletics, Cincinnati Reds, low-market teams who could have contended for World Series this year, but they couldn't because there is no salary cap in the MLB, and if you are a low-market team in the MLB, you can't fix that. You see in other sports. You see in the NBA, Phoenix, not the biggest market. Phoenix Suns are the best team in the NBA. Memphis, definitely not the biggest market. They're one of the best teams in the NBA also. Minnesota, definitely not a big market, but they're in the playoffs right now. But for the MLB, there is no salary cap. If you're a low-market team, you can't contend. That's pretty much all that's being said right here in the MLB. MLB needs a salary cap, everybody. Pitch clock isn't going to fix all this. Pitch clock doesn't fix any of this. That's why the lockout was pointless this offseason. Pointless. MLB has bigger issues to figure out. They need a salary cap. Like I said, pretty much half of MLB has a payroll around $30 million, and 8 players have payroll over $30 million. If you're a low-market team MLB, newsflash, you can't contend. You just can't. Kansas City Royals contended for a couple years, but after they won that World Series, they had to get rid of everybody. They got rid of Ben Zobrist. They lost him to the Cubs. They got rid of Eric Hosmer. They lost him to the Padres. It's just sad right here to see in the MLB. If you're a low-market team, you can't contend. That's why I'm happy to be a New York Mets fan, or we're a high-market team, and we can contend. We can get great players. But salary cap needs to be a thing in the MLB. You can't see the Dodgers getting all these guys. The Dodgers have one of the highest payrolls of all time. Meanwhile, the Pirates, the Brewers, all these teams have very low payrolls. Those are my thoughts right there. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. That's about for baseball's big problem. Now at the buzzer, everybody. This week's at the buzzer, it's NFL. It's nothing to do with the NFL draft. Yes, Jimmy Garoppolo and Baker Mayfield are still not free agents. They're still not new teams. Jimmy Garoppolo still fit San Francisco 49ers. Baker Mayfield's still Cleveland Brown. But let's find new homes for these players. Let's discuss it right here. Jimmy Garoppolo, mark my words, will be an Atlanta Falcon. I don't think the Falcons have to give up that much. I think they're going to do in like June, maybe even July. They will be getting Jimmy Garoppolo. And it's kind of a win-win for Arthur Blank. He's a bit of a Matt Ryan type player. So, say Jimmy Garoppolo does great for the Atlanta Falcons. Great! We get to the playoffs. Cordell Patterson, great target for him. We make the playoffs, everything like that. But if he does terrible, great! We get a number 1 pick. We can get C.J. Stroud. We We can get DJ Uwangale. We can get Bryce Young. I don't think they should take the trigger on Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett just yet this offseason. I don't think they need a quarterback this offseason, at least a rookie quarterback this offseason. They should get Jimmy Garoppolo, like I said. But next year's quarterback class is much better than this year's quarterback class, in my opinion. So, I mean, kind of just wild stuff with Jimmy G right now. I mean, Deebo Samuel requested a trade from the 49ers today. Jimmy Garoppolo obviously will be traded from the 49ers. They already gave Trey Lance their oath that he's going to be their starting quarterback. But Jimmy Garoppolo is proved to be a winning quarterback. Led them to the conference championship, led them to the Super Bowl, and just has great seasons when he's healthy, pretty much. Jimmy Garoppolo has led good teams when he's healthy. Even though his stats don't look the best, even though his play doesn't look the best, when he's healthy, they win. His team wins. So I think this would be a win-win move for the Atlanta Falcons. If he does great, we make the playoffs. If he does terrible, great, we get CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. Those are my thoughts right there on Jimmy Garoppolo. Now let's find home for Baker Mayfield. I don't think Baker Mayfield's going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL next season. I think he's going to be a Tennessee Titan, everybody. I don't think he's going to be a Houston Texan, even though there's rumors about that. If the Houston Texans really wanted him, they would trade him in that Deshaun Watson deal. They would have wanted him in that Deshaun Watson deal. So I don't think he goes over to the Houston Texans. I think he goes over to those Tennessee Titans. This is almost like that Ryan Tannehill deal that they did a couple years ago. Even though Marcus Mariota was their starting quarterback for the first 6 games that season, they said, hey, Marcus Mariota's doing terrible. Let's bring in Ryan Tannehill. Boom, he brings us to the conference championship game. I think Baker Mayfield can maybe have that same effect right there. I know Ryan Tannehill's under a huge contract right now. This would be a win-win for Baker Mayfield, in my opinion. He gets to learn under Ryan Tannehill. I think Baker Mayfield's a good quarterback, everybody. He tore his labrum in week 2. Still played pretty well after that. Got COVID in a tough system where he lost his best wide receiver, Odell Beckham Jr. So Baker Mayfield has proved to make the playoffs in the NFL. So I think this is a win-win for Baker Mayfield and Jimmy Garoppolo. That's about for that. The buzz this week. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Now, best Philos question today. This week's question today is, who will be the best player from this year's NFL draft class? When it's all said and done, these players' career, who will be the best player? I think it's going to be Aiden Hutchinson. You could say it's going to be Kevin Thibodeau. You could say it's going to be Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett. I really don't know. But Aiden Hutchinson is my pick to be the best player from this draft class. When they're all said and done, when they're all retired, he's my pick to be the best player from this draft class. Who's your pick? Leave your answer in the comment section. That's the powerful question today this week. That's about for Schoolyard Sports Lane for episode 76. Thank you for tuning in. Follow Schoolyard Sports on Instagram at Schoolyard Sports. Follow Schoolyard Sports on Twitter at Schoolyard Sport. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review for the best sports content in the world. We'll be back next week, episode 77. Stay tuned.